Welcome to the Gear Locker, and welcome to episode 1 of Soldier Stories. As you guys may know, I'm a longtime collector of KSK gear, German Bundeswehr things, and general military equipment. And I've been able to share all of these things with you guys here on this channel. However, I haven't been able to share the stories and experiences of the people who actually wear this equipment. That is, until now. With this video, and others like it in the future, I hope to share these stories that I learn with you guys direct from the operators. And I thought of no better person to join us on this first video than Christian Gerstner himself, author of Unter Dem Schwert and a KSK operator for 15 years. Prior to jumping into this interview, I want to express my gratitude once again. I am extremely grateful that he was able to join us and share some of his experiences that he's also written in his book. Understand that with any person in the SOF community, there are things that they can and cannot share. So a lot of his experiences are going to come from here. So I hope you guys can enjoy this video and enjoy the experiences that Christian will share with us here. Thank you so much for joining us here. I am truly grateful not only to just talk to you, but to hear and learn more of your experiences. So thank you again. And if you'd like, could we start with a brief introduction of you, please?
Yes, of course. First of all, I want to thank you as well. It's my first interview, so to say, in English. So I have no idea if everybody will understand me, but I'll do my very best. Yeah, I'm Christian Gerstner. I'm the author of the book Unter Dem Schwert. It tells my story about 15 years within Germany's Tier 1 unit KSK. I've been in the military now for almost 22 years. So I'm still active duty and there are 15 more years to go. And in my book, I'm going to write about the experiences, a little bit of my past and my youth, but a lot of selection process, deployments, and a little bit about some scandals which hit my unit back in the days. I just wanted to give people an overview how to get there, how it is in there, and how things developed over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely been, if it's not already, it is the most well-known book from a Kommando in general. So, I mean, props to you. I know when that first hit the market, when you first started announcing it, I was very excited about it, even though I'm still struggling through German myself. But no, it's definitely a really cool thing. So I'm glad that you did it.
I apologize that there's no English version. I had some requests about it, but honestly, I have to say there are so many good books from Great Britain or from the US, from former Tier 1 operators. Right. There is not really a need for my book there. And I don't know if it sounds maybe stupid, but I don't know if it's worth it to translate it in English because you got so many great books out there. I don't know. I still think about it.
Understandable. No worries. That's why we're doing this.
Yes.
So I guess to dive into some of the questions, first and foremost, in your book, I know you mentioned prior life experiences. If you wouldn't mind sharing, like what was the journey to you joining the KSK? Were there any life experiences? Was it one fast track right there? Or did you have things that kind of snowballed into joining that unit?
Yeah, there was absolutely no fast track. I might have chosen the slowest track to go there. So first of all, I started my mandatory service, which was still ongoing in 2001 when I joined the military, the Bundeswehr. So it were 10 months I had to do, but I signed up for 2 more. So it was 12 months because I had nothing to do after school, Abitur, Gymnasium here in Germany. Mm-hmm. So I stayed 12 months in the military. It was not the sexiest job I've done there. It was an engineer company, and it was okay-ish. So my plan was to go out there. What I did, made an apprenticeship as a bank clerk. Nobody can imagine that anymore today when he sees me. But it was always in suit and nice and smiling. Yes. But during that time, I realized that's even more boring because the plan was to study economics. But I missed the rifle, I missed the comrades, I missed hanging out, what I did all in my youth. I was a lot out there in the woods and doing crazy stuff. So I couldn't imagine to die in an office. So I informed myself because I didn't want to go to regular infantry or engineering anymore, way too boring. And then I realized there is a program that helps you to join the KSK Tier 1 unit. You can compare it a little bit to the 18 X-ray program, so the Baby Soft program of the Green Berets, where you can go as a civilian. So in my case, or in that program, you were able to join as a lower enlisted, what I was by that time after 12 months, or as a civilian. So, and they told me, the drafty said, that's the best choice. They're gonna help you to join KSK, and it's the best you can do. Yeah, in a perspective, it was not really the best idea because it was really, really tough. I mean, they literally destroyed us. It was all LRP driven, so long range reconnaissance patrolling driven. It means digging holes in the wood, stay in this hole for a week, march there with 120 pounds on your back, march back there after a week. And that was for 2 years. Yeah, my life.
Oh my goodness.
Carrying trees on the shoulder, doing so many sit-ups and push-ups, you can cross the world. It was crazy, and a lot of good comrades failed, or even worse, got injured during that time. So I was lucky; I never injured. I passed all those courses. It was not only getting destroyed courses; there were also good courses like leadership courses, airborne school, military driving license. So everything you need to become a sergeant, you did within those 2 years.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, that's a lot of training. Yeah.
Yeah. 2 years is a long time. You have to stay focused. You have to stay mentally fit. You have to stay physical fit, and you're not allowed to get injured.
Right. Yeah. That can take someone out very quickly. We see that all the time around here, especially with the airborne school and jumping.
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess with the selection, we, as you had mentioned, like carrying the trees on your back and the heavy packs, we've seen like YouTube videos of training, and I know someone by the name of Otto Bulletproof, who's a very popular media personnel. He's going to be doing a sort of training video. But what was your experience like? Do you have anything that stood out to you? Any funny stories or anything that you enjoyed particularly in the selection? I know you said it was tough, but what was it like?
Yeah, there was nothing I enjoyed. Bottom line up front. But so after those 2 years in the LRP program, I qualified for the KSK selection, and there are two phases. Phase 1, phase 2. Phase 1 is more or less computer testing, psychologically testing, medical testings, and a little bit of PT, but not too crazy. They just want to see, is there a potential in this soldier that he can even survive Hell Week? Makes no sense. We go to Hell Week and after 5 minutes, you're going to die or something. So there was phase 1. Therefore, I had the most respect because I didn't know how the psychologists see me. Maybe they see, oh my gosh, he's so crazy, we cannot take him. So I was physically fit. I was, in my opinion, mentally fit. It was everything fine, but I didn't know what those doctors would say when they talked to me about my past and my future and the present and looking into my brain. So you never know that. It's not in my hands, I thought.
Yeah.
But it worked out. So I qualified for Hell Week. Yes, and Hell Week, I got to mention by that time I was in the shape of my life when it comes to physical fitness, especially marching with heavy rucksacks for a long distance in heavy terrain. That was absolute mine. And it went quite well. And at a certain point, I realized I really got a problem with my shoulders.
Oh, no.
So because the extra load you got there all the time from several games and trees and whatsoever, it hurt so badly on my shoulders. I knew the feet at one place they will hurt. I know every part of your body, and even the shoulders I was aware from marching a lot with heavy rucksacks, but I was not aware about that pain in the shoulders. So I totally underestimated it. But there was no solution. I mean, there was nothing to do for me but march on.
Right.
Yeah, one funny thing I experienced during that time I didn't before was falling asleep during marching. So it really works. And it's a little dangerous because you walk in the woods. I mean, there
Hmm.
are several paths through, but there are trees on the left and on the right side, and
Hmm.
there is the potential risk to hit a tree. I did not,
Oh
but
my
yeah,
God.
you march and fall asleep a couple seconds and wake up, and I realized even that is possible.
Oh my
Yes, and
goodness.
at the last day, everything hurt. Feet, head, heart, everything. I was
I'm
totally
sure.
fucked up.
What
Yeah,
was your first thing you did after that, aside from sleep?
shower.
Shower, yeah.
Shower where I realized I had a tick in my
Oh,
stomach area,
jeez.
a deer tick.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I asked my buddy, hey, can you pull that out? But yes, of course. Yeah, he tried, and half of it stuck in there. So I
Oh
went to the
no.
medical section next day. But it was,
Hmm.
yeah, nothing crazy. I mean, it was just a deer tick from my kid's life out in the woods. I
Hmm.
had a lot of deer ticks in my life, and normally you do not die because of a deer tick.
Right.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
there was one other thing during at the end of the Hell Week. They
Hmm.
gonna arrest you. So there's a
Hmm.
yeah, you go into a prisoner of war scenario,
Right.
and in that scenario, which was not funny as well,
Mm.
I somehow um, had a problem with one of my nerves. It got stuck between the muscles or somehow. I don't know how to
Oh.
explain better in English, but
Hmm.
it was really painful, and I was shocked. I was panicking because every time you had several positions, so stress positions you had to fulfill, blinded,
Hmm.
and every time I had to move, I realized I cannot move my leg anymore.
Oh
But
no.
I was afraid to tell anybody because I was afraid they say, "Okay, you're out." So
Hmm.
I told my best buddy when the prisoner of war phase was over. They brought us with a bus to a certain point where we had to run back, and I knew from other guys, it's the very last step. You got to run into the barracks, and then you are there.
Hmm.
So I told him, "Hey, fuck, I got a serious problem with my leg." And it was really my best buddy. He was with me in LERP school. We did everything together.
Hmm.
And then I realized he didn't even react. He said nothing. He did because he was nervous for himself. He wasn't allowed to help me. I mean,
Yeah.
when I look back now, of course, but what else? There was nothing to do for him.
Yeah. Oh
So
my goodness.
I started running, and I
Hmm.
figured out, okay, as long as I run, as long as I'm in motion, it works somehow. So I, I,
Okay.
I didn't stop. I ran into the barracks, went into the last briefing. In the briefing room, there was another test to fulfill. And
Hmm.
after that test, I tried to get up and I couldn't walk anymore.
Oh
So
my
two
goodness.
buddies of mine, they had to bring me out there to the shower. Next day,
Hmm.
medical section. Then they gave me some walking aid and told me, yes, there's a nerve in between and it will be better after a couple of days. But it was painful, and yeah, at that moment, after 1 week of hell,
Hmm.
you are very afraid that you won't make it. But
Yeah.
it worked out.
But you powered through, and that's such an incredible testament. I mean, we can see all the training in the US and we hear how challenging it is, but from what I've heard from your peers and others in your circles, KSK Hell Week is intense. It's one of the most intense. So props to you for doing that. That's awesome to hear that you did power through despite those struggles.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. But again, it's yeah. Even I mentioned I'm slightly got hurt. It's you
Hmm.
have to be lucky as well. Of course,
Yeah.
you have to want it. There's nothing more important than wanting it so badly.
Hmm.
Then you gotta be physical fit, and you have to be lucky at the end of the day because a lot of people they break their ankle or they got so big and many blisters in their
Hmm.
shoes from marching. It's just impossible to move on. And yeah, I was fit. I was lucky. I was yeah lost 8 kilos,
Oh my
and
gosh.
that was
Yeah,
it.
that's
But
yeah.
but nothing was won on that point. So it was just a selection process. So
Right. Yeah. I mean, and then after selection, you guys go through, it's a couple of years, correct me if I'm wrong, 2 years of training before you go to your unit, so to speak.
yeah,
Uh, what was, so what were some of your favorite trainings? I guess what was stuff that stood out to you during that 2 year period?
yeah, you mentioned it. It's 2 years, and I'm not sure, but I think in the Western countries there's no tier one unit who spends more years or time in training than KSK. It's
Yeah.
there are several reasons. One reason is that everybody can go there. So
Hmm.
I know there are other units there, it's the same, but they say, okay, we take everyone, and therefore we got to train everyone for 2 years to bring them
Hmm.
to a certain point. There were discussions within the last years back and forth. What can we skip out? What can we shorten? What can we prolong? Probably it's still 2 years. And the thing
Hmm.
is, I already had 2 years in the LERP school, and then those
Right.
2 years on top. And believe me, on a certain point, you're tired. But
Yeah.
back to the question, what I really liked, so everything shoot, move, communicate, CQB,
Hmm.
hitting targets in buildings, in woods, in everything when it comes to shooting the rifle, going kinetic. That was absolutely my stuff.
Yeah, no, there's so many cool photos of training. They're a little bit later than I imagine what you were in, probably around like 2010s. I've seen some of the training and it's very cool stuff.
Yeah.
The facilities you guys have over there are incredible. I know like ODAs have trained there and it's very
Yes.
cool. You guys have awesome facilities.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The ODA from Stuttgart in the Panzer barracks. We did a
Hmm.
lot with those guys. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's I loved it. And what I didn't really like, everything what had to do with water. So
Oh yeah.
swimming, diving, and to be honest, I didn't need it.
Hmm.
Within the 15 years KSK, I did not
Never used
have
it.
to swim into one mission over the beach or whatever.
Hmm.
Deep dive somewhere in the ocean, nothing of it. I mean, I can understand that they want you to have a certain qualification on that because you never know. There
Right.
was, for example, there were days when the HRO, the hostage rescue on ships, was
Hmm.
quite an important subject when all those ships got
Hmm.
um, under the control of some pirates down in Africa.
Right.
And we trained for that, and therefore it was not bad because with all the gear and stuff, you fall into the water. You should be able to help yourself, otherwise you're gone. Or even the fighting on the CQB on the ship is different
Hmm.
than in buildings and rooms because everything is tighter. And
Right.
yeah, so that
It's like a
was
maze.
not my favorite stuff.
Yeah,
Everything
you
with water.
leave that to the KSM.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, or
Yeah.
Navy SEALs, or everybody's welcome. Just do it.
Right. Right. So you do that 2 years of training, and then from my understanding, afterwards I mean, you get trained in every area. Every commando has all the different trainings for, I guess, all the roles, and of course, you can go deeper into other roles. What was your desired role after training? Did you pick based on platoon, company, or did you just choose like, I like this job and this is what I'd want to do?
Yeah, that's a good question. So technically, you are allowed to give a wish when it
Hmm.
comes to squadron or company and what you want to do there, which specialty.
Right.
So that's what I did. Me and my
Hmm.
best buddy, or even some of our best buddy, we wanted to go to fourth company, fourth
Hmm.
squadron. We landed there,
Nice. That's awesome.
luckily, yes.
Hmm.
And I wanted to become the signal guy
Hmm.
because I thought it's cool. You always get information firsthand from higher command. You can call
Yeah.
in the birds. You can, yeah, that was my stuff, and my English is not that bad. So I was interested in that and a little bit technical stuff. But then
Hmm.
they told me, yeah, at the moment there's not really a slot
Hmm.
for a signal guy, but you could be the team medic. And I was fine with that too. That was my second choice.
Hmm.
So I became the team medic,
Awesome.
which was pretty cool for the rest of my life. I mean, I can help people still, or myself or family, if something happens.
Right.
Uh, that's something you can use your whole life. I mean, um,
Absolutely.
pretty cool, yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
and after a couple years, I became deputy team leader,
Hmm.
which was awesome. And then a couple years later, I became team leader of an awesome assault team with the
Wow.
specialty vertical, so halo, hey ho, everything
Oh,
airborne
wow.
stuff.
Yeah.
And
Lots of
yeah,
jumps.
that was absolutely awesome.
That's great. I mean, so One of the things that the guys in the US do, especially when they're going through like the 18 Delta training for medics and all, they train. I've heard stories of them going to places like Detroit, Michigan, where they experience a lot of like gunshot wounds during that training. Was there something similar for you in that kind of specialty training?
Um, for me personally, not. The
Mhm.
problem was they tried to send me to the 18 Delta course to Fort Bragg twice.
Oh,
Back in
jeez.
the days, there were struggles with higher command
Hmm.
because the Army's medical section, they were pissed off that the KSK operators are highly more qualified than their own medical personnel.
Oh
Yeah,
my goodness.
it sounds
Hmm.
funny, but that's how a big
No.
army works.
Yeah.
So KSK had problems to send regular operators over there, and that was
Hmm.
during my time. At
Hmm.
a certain point, I became more and more into leadership, so it was somehow too late to go to the 18 Delta course because it
Yeah.
takes there's a part in Fort Sam Houston and for foreigners to learn medical English and stuff, and then they go to. So all in all, it's 18 to 20 months you're over there,
Yeah.
and that was in the high time of Afghanistan, and I was going up the ladder to leadership. So my
Right.
time as an 18 Delta was over.
Yeah.
But before myself and after myself, they did send people to the 18 Delta course, and I think they still send today.
Hmm.
Plus, they do several trainings in big hospitals around the world where
Hmm.
you can see a lot of bullshit going on. Yeah,
No, sure. Yeah.
yeah. But
Um,
it was, of course, there was a lot of extra training in the US with the civilian companies
hmm.
um, to learn and to treat gunshot wounds. In a way, you weren't, to say it a little bit uh, polite, you were not able to train in Germany like that.
No, understandable. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
that's an unfortunate reality at the moment. But yeah, so I mean that's awesome to hear that you moved up the ladder. And I mean, being that you've had so many years of experience with the KSK, I'm sure the types of equipment and the things that you used once you got out into the field were very different. So I guess from your experience, what was the equipment like when you went in versus when you left? Like any kind of big changes or improvements that you liked?
Absolutely. So, to put it in a nutshell, everything got lighter
Hmm.
and smaller and less. So,
Hmm.
we started with thick cotton wool trousers, plate carriers,
Hmm.
10 magazines, heavy weapons, heavy helmets, heavy NVGs. Everything was
Hmm.
heavy and old fashioned and very old style.
Hmm.
And that developed quite quick, especially with the deployment in Afghanistan.
Hmm.
So our aim always was, especially in the squadron or company I was in,
Hmm.
we always wanted to be faster,
Right.
lighter. Lighter makes you faster, and we
Hmm.
always worked on that, and we always got more slick and more less and less and less and less.
Yeah.
To a certain point where you have to be careful, but in the end of the day, when you stand there naked, you cannot fight anymore. But that
Right.
was kind of the process.
Hmm.
Less, get rid of stuff you don't need,
Yeah.
because you want to be fast. And when you're fast, you're safe and you can react better and faster. And
Hmm.
that was the biggest change. I mean, look at those all those plate carriers nowadays, laser cut, and
Yeah.
uh, every ounce is a way. And can we leave that? Can we skip that?
Hmm.
Weapons the same. Yes,
Right.
everything, it changed a lot. It back from Bravo to Zero style
Hmm.
equipment to high Gucci tier one operator, sexy
Yeah.
death from above shit.
Yeah, no, that's it's awesome just to see the transition. Because the early KSK photos, whether they're from the 90s or the early 2000s, it's the
Yeah.
heavy, like you have the CRAS vest, the Eagle stuff, the tan,
Yes.
you even have the black even further back. And
Yes.
just to go now to the all multi-tarn, it's a very nice and appealing transition looks wise, but I'm sure functionally too.
Yes. Absolutely. That was our main focus. So in 2010, it was, yeah,
Hmm.
we have worn for the first time the CRYE precision stuff
Right.
during deployment.
Hmm.
So we told our command, we need that stuff. Yeah, you just want to look good. No, give it whatever color. but
Hmm.
give us the functionality that you mentioned of those trousers. I mean, there's
Right.
pockets where they have to be. They are working. It's light. It's yeah. It was functional. So at that
Hmm.
point in 2010, I'm 100% sure there was nothing better than CRYE Precision
Yeah.
uniform, and that's why, of course, Delta Force or Dev Crew or whatever
Hmm.
took those because it was the best at the market at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and just the transition from deployment instead of being like in the Tropentarn clothing, you guys are wearing a lot of like Arc'teryx and Cry Precision. Another piece of yours that I think is personally I think it's very iconic is your helmet. You wear like a you was that a private purchase helmet or like your equipment? Was there anything that you purchased separately that you used a lot more than issued equipment?
Um, Back in the days, yes. When there was all those old-fashioned stuff, yes, but not
Hmm.
when it comes to protective equipment,
Gotcha. Okay.
because that makes you gets you into trouble if somebody hits you or something happens. So
Right,
if you got
right.
shot or hit or hurt, the insurance company sounds crazy, but
Oh.
they gonna or better said, the military they gonna check, hey, was that equipment issued? And
Hmm.
if not, what would have been if he would have had used military equipment? And that
Hmm.
was dangerous. So the helmets and the
Right.
plates within the plate carrier, they were all issued. So
Okay, understand.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's touchy subject. But yeah, when
understandable.
it
Yeah.
comes to shoes, for example, yes, I remember I always bought my own shoes because
Hmm.
German army there were only shoes with Gore-Tex,
Yeah,
and
they're
I don't need
heavy.
Gore-Tex 40 50 degrees Celsius, and my feet
Hmm.
are melting away. That was one thing. I
Hmm.
always bought my own shoes, but
Hmm.
nowadays there's a big variety you can choose off. There are better shoes now as well.
Right.
Yes, and some maybe jackets. Some bought some jackets, always depending on the mission, what you did,
Hmm.
and where you had to go. But
Hmm.
yeah, nowadays I don't think there's a need to buy anything. You get everything you need, and
Yeah.
in good quality, and in yeah in a good amount. I mean,
Right.
it's like with a cell phone or a computer, you buy it,
Hmm.
and after a year, there's something more sexy. If you really
Hmm.
want to have that, okay, feel free, buy that, but there's no need anymore.
Right.
Absolutely.
No, that's good to hear. I'm glad.
Yeah.
The equipment adaptation and change is a positive thing, I'm sure, for any force. And to see you guys at least now have the ability, or as you were going through, have the ability to have nicer equipment without having to go buy it yourself is a good thing to see. I'm
Yep.
sure that was much appreciated for the wallets, especially. Um, yeah, so with the I guess with the equipment, last question on that front, but what was your favorite piece of equipment that you used that you could share, whether it was just in training or deployment, like what was the best thing for you to use?
The best thing for me to use was when we skipped to those fast helmets,
Hmm.
because those old Mitch helmets, they were heavy, they weren't functional, they were. I got a big head because my brain is so big. Probably I don't know. It always hurt after a certain time with night vision
Hmm.
goggles on it. And
Right.
when we finally got those nice helmets, and for me, the helmet is the most important part because it not
Right.
only protects your brain, but it's also there are your night vision goggles on there. There's a light on it. There is
Hmm.
communications on it. So it's the center of an operator, and that
Right.
has to work. That has to be functional. And I had a discussion with our development group, and one of the staff officers who spent his whole life in an office said, "Hey, at the end of the day, it's only a helmet." And I said, "No, that helmet
It's
makes a huge and big difference. You got to switch from day to night within split seconds, and
hmm.
maybe need a light and need to talk, and it
Yeah,
has to
it's
be perfect." And
absolutely.
yes, that was my thing. A helmet with everything on there on the right place. I could work with it blindly. That was
Hmm.
cool.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's very, very true and good points. You don't really hear too many people say that, but I'm glad that you have that at least said too, because that's good.
Yeah, there's no
So
need to talk about that. The weapon is the most important thing. Yes, of course.
right.
Yeah, and you need a bullet, and the bullet has to hit. Yes, of course. I mean, everybody knows that, but
Hmm.
everything else for me, that's the helmet,
Yeah,
definitely.
absolutely. So I guess with that, going into using the equipment on deployments, like I know you can't share too much about what the deployments actually entailed, but do you have any experiences or things you can share when you did step outside the wire, so to speak?
Yeah. So I think it's apocalypse now. I don't know if it's Colonel Kurtz himself, but somebody's saying there's no better feeling than flying with a helicopter into a war zone.
Hmm.
And that's 100% true for me.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, it feels just awesome when you step into the bird at night and
Hmm.
there's a moon somewhere, and at a certain elevation, you're going to smell the burned wood, and you smell those people and those villages, and it's getting warmer, and you
Hmm.
go touchdown, boots on the ground, and do your stuff. That was really an amazing experience. I
Hmm.
mean, that's the typical way a tier one operation back in the days looked like. You flew in
Hmm.
somewhere, tried to reach somebody in his bed down location, and did your job, went back to the landing zone, got into the chopper, and flew off. So that was the
Hmm.
ideal operation. There were several other operations, land infiltration with vehicles or walking there or whatever, but
Right.
flying somewhere with a helicopter, got air cover, got a gunship, got fast movers out there, got everything you
Hmm.
want, feels great.
That's
Um,
it's like a
so
movie.
that were the nice parts of the deployments. Yeah, I was
Hmm.
7 times in Afghanistan. It wasn't every time possible, and like I said, not every mission was a night raid with a
Hmm.
bird. There were, yeah, not so
Hmm.
sexy things during the day sometimes with vehicles where you
Hmm.
always have the potential risk to hit an ID,
Hmm.
what makes you the same vulnerable than every infantry unit. So
Hmm.
if a armored personal carrier hits an ID, it doesn't matter who's sitting in there. I
Right.
mean, might be a difference what kind of support is around it and how fast everybody reacts, but the
Hmm.
vehicle is the vehicle and the ID is the ID, and it makes no difference. So that's why we always try to avoid driving around
Right.
in Afghanistan.
Hmm.
And what another interesting point for me was the difference between fighting in Afghanistan and fighting in Iraq.
Hmm.
So in Afghanistan, you never knew who is this guy, what does this guy. During the day, he had his pitchfork, changed that at night times for his Kalashnikov,
Hmm.
and you never knew who is who. You could not move whatever single road in this country without the potential risk of hitting an ID.
Mm.
So Iraq, totally different.
Yeah.
There was the forward line of own troops. There were the berms. There were the villages with the black flags. And there were those ISIS-IS dudes.
Hmm.
You knew they were there. They wanted to fight. They wanted to die. It was clear.
Yeah.
It was like a border, like two countries fighting each other. Yes, of
Hmm.
course, once in a while somebody broke through the berm, whatever, some hit and run stuff. But in general, it was clear, and that
Hmm.
made fighting easier because you knew who's your enemy and where they are. Uh,
Absolutely.
Plus, you had freedom of movement in the rest of Iraq. So,
Hmm.
a couple kilometers away from the front line or the berms, there were shopping malls, there were everything. There
Wow.
was no more risk in Afghanistan. You had that risk. So I'm talking
Hmm.
about Iraq in the last years. So not
Right.
the first time, the first war, not the second.
Hmm.
But I'm talking about 2014, 15, 16, that time.
Right. Well, really
So
with the
not that
rise.
somebody says that when I was there, you couldn't move from A to B. You got blown up every day. I'm talking about this specific time when I was,
Right.
um, and that was totally interesting and totally different. Yeah.
I'm sure, yeah. Like it reminds me of the US experience in Vietnam,
Yeah.
with not being able to tell with the Viet Cong and everything. So that's an interesting perspective to see the difference in those two deployments.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in general, just it doesn't have to be on deployment or in training specifically, but over the 15 years, did you have anything that were some of your favorite moments or favorite memories or things that you're particularly proud of that you did?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm totally proud of that. My comrades, my unit, and me, that we tried to fight fleeing reasons. Is this an English term?
Yeah, I believe that makes sense. Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. So
Yeah.
we tried to make those people stay in their country, that it's safe in their country, that they
Mm-hmm.
take their own responsibility, that they don't have to flee to Europe, to Germany, to wherever.
Right.
When we talk about Afghanistan, I can say quite frankly, it didn't work.
Mm.
Or it didn't work out very well, at least. I mean, 20 years of so many blood, money, and equipment did
Right.
not help that country. And when you see a country falling within a couple of days, in my opinion, they didn't really want it.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it's different in Iraq. Sorry,
Mm-hmm.
there, in my opinion, it worked
Mm-hmm.
much better. So the Islamic State, yeah, is not, they are not gone forever and not destroyed forever, maybe, but they got it under control back. Talk about Mosul or other parts of Iraq.
Right.
They are now more or less under control of Iraqi security forces, and
Mm-hmm.
there it worked. And that helps you as a soldier at the end of the day when you see it was not worthless. If somebody just saw Afghanistan and maybe lost a leg or a body or even more, I can imagine it might be frustrating. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
happy that I tried to help, and that in some cases it worked out well. And if
Mm-hmm.
there's a moment, a significant moment I should name, I remember when I was landing after my Iraq deployment
Mm-hmm.
in a civilian airport, and my 9 month pregnant wife was there
Wow,
with
wow.
our first son, and my first son walked to me when I came out the
Oh my
gate.
goodness.
So he learned walking while I was away, and
Mm-hmm.
my pregnant wife, and they picked me up from the airport. That was a moment I will never forget in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, 1 week later, she gave birth to our second son, and another week
Wow.
later, I went back to Afghanistan.
Oh
So
wow.
came from Iraq, stayed there,
Mm-hmm.
saw my son coming to this world, and went to Afghanistan quite fast.
Wow.
But it was a crazy time, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, your off tempo, I'm sure was crazy, but that's a very heartwarming thing to feel and to hear. Like the homecoming. I guess you see a lot of content here in the US and a lot of conversation about welcoming soldiers home and it's good to hear that that had happened to you as well. Um,
Yeah,
so with that, I come to one of my last questions, and it's pertaining to your book, because Unter Dem Schwert, as we had mentioned, I hope my pronunciation's okay. Was it okay on that front?
awesome.
Okay, good. Um, it's become one of the most popular books from a Kommando, and that's something that I'm sure you're very proud of. What was your inspiration for writing this? And is there anything more that we didn't cover today that you wanted to share about it?
Well, there was not really an intent to publish a book. I just wrote my memories when I left KSK, for me or my kids or my family, whoever wants to read. I just started with the deployments,
Hmm.
and at a certain point, a book came on the market. I was not really happy with that,
Hmm.
to say it in a polite way. And
Hmm.
I was like, okay, I don't want people to think that exactly how it is. I want to show them how it really is and a little bit more. And yes,
Hmm.
from my perspective, maybe this guy is totally right and he saw things like he wrote them. It's fine.
Hmm.
I don't want to blame him. I just
Right.
say I saw things different, and
Hmm.
I thought I had to tell people more and tell them how we really are.
Hmm.
And from the feedbacks, I think it worked out quite good, like you mentioned.
Hmm.
And yes, at a certain point, I was like, okay, why not myself publishing a book?
Right.
But then it started to get complicated because I'm still active duty.
Hmm.
And it's not easy to write a book when you're active duty, especially about KSK tier one
Hmm.
stuff. So there were a lot of provings and a lot of double check, and it almost took a year till somebody said, okay, the way it is right now, I left some
Hmm.
things out, not too many, somebody said, okay, now you can go. All
Wow.
lights green. But yeah, it was tough. I felt like I'm the first German soldier writing a book, because
Yeah.
some people said it's impossible. Maybe ask him, ask them. And I find some good people that really helped me,
Hmm.
like Marcel Bonert. He wrote the beginning words. He
Right.
helped me a lot, because at one point somebody said, yeah, you got to ask Department of Defense. And I was like, really? If
All the
I
way up the chain.
if I ask Department of Defense if I'm allowed to publish that book, it will take 10 years. And at the end of the day, it will be a leaflet like that.
Oh no,
Yes, I
yeah.
was a soldier and I fought overseas. I said, no, no way.
Yeah.
Yes, but it worked out. And
Hmm.
yeah, of course,
That's
I'm proud. And I didn't know
yeah.
if I could write a book, if somebody reads it. I mean, I've written it on my own.
Right.
100%. And yes, like you said, it somehow worked out, and yes, makes me proud.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so given that these are your experiences and for lack of a better term, all the bureaucracy that went into having to publish that book, do you have any plans for anything more? If not, it's okay. I'm just curious.
I know that's a question I receiving quite often, and I always say, I don't say yes, I don't say no, I don't promise
Mhm.
anything.
Right.
I I have plans and I would like to, but to be honest, I don't want to just write a second book that I've written a second book. So
Hmm.
it should be, yeah, good substance, and another good book, and not just a book. I'm
Right.
not sure. I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
that's
We will
fair.
see.
No,
Yeah.
we will keep a keen eye. But Christian, is there anything else that you wanted to mention or share with the people who would be watching this at home?
Yes. First of all, I want to thank everybody who's interested in military stuff, in special forces stuff, in tier one
Mhm.
stuff, because it's important to tell people how life is in those units.
Mhm.
One reason is to get people to join, because all those units, they don't have enough personnel.
Mhm.
So it would be great if somebody says, okay, that sounds good, what those people say, what they do, I want to be part of it. But also to show the rest of the world how those people are who fight for the country, who risk their lives for their country, for our freedom, for democracy.
Mhm.
And I think within the last few years, all this stuff you guys do helps
Mhm.
to show people how this world is, and make it maybe a better place one day.
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much again. It's been such an awesome opportunity to talk and learn from you, and I greatly appreciate it. And I, of course, hope to keep in contact some more. But thank you so much, and I'm kind of left speechless. But thank you. No, this was
Thank
awesome.
you. Yes, yes. Every time, maybe you got another idea for another interview one day, or my second book is out there.
Yeah,
We will see. You never know.
absolutely. Please and thank you. That was an incredible experience and such a great conversation to have. I hope you all gained some new insight and perspective from it. And I hope to continue this in the future with other people in the SOF community. A huge thank you to Christian Gerstner. Please give him a follow on his Instagram page, Unter Dem Schwert. I'll link it down below. Support him by purchasing his book and sharing how much you enjoyed it. Personally, I'm still working through it because I don't read German that well. I'm not that high of a level on Duolingo yet, but I'll get there. This is The Gear Locker, and we'll see you in the next one.